Mic check. Mic check. This is your pal, George Boutsalis.
And this is your other pal, Ricky Liordi. And we're back in the studio with another one. This week, we had our good pal, Andy De Santis, registered dietitian, king of Kale, overall great guy. We got into a little bit of food, some nutrition, some tips on how to stay healthy, and we chatted about good ways to stay fit, especially during the winter months. So, Georgie, tell them who our sponsor was.
Shout out to our boy, Steve Liambis. Honestly, Steve, best in the game. Guys, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Steven Liambis, whether you're buyer, seller, renter, leaser, he got you. He's got you covered. Steve's an expert in this industry, all areas around the GTA. He's been in this for a long time. Whether you need to buy, sell, lease, get in touch with Steven. He can look after your needs. He puts his clients' priorities first. He's not in it just for the sale. He's in it to make sure that at the end of the day, you're satisfied with the results. Reach out to him at Homes by Steven or www.homesbysteven.ca. And my pal,
LFG.
Let's go.
Boom.
Ka-ching.
We're good.
I don't know if I ever said ka-ching in my life. I guess
Andy,
we're live. Let's go.
Welcome to the Pals Podcast.
Thanks for having me, boys.
No, thanks for coming in. And like a great guest, you brought us gifts.
Yeah.
Gifts.
And honestly, like lately, people have been bringing a lot of like food-related stuff. So what?
Did you start that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're good.
we're live. We're live.
Yeah, we've had a lot of food-related items, and now we have author, dietitian, nutritionist. So this should be a good one.
Oh, you better believe it's going to be.
So where did you, I guess, obviously you're a nutritionist, but where'd you get the idea to start writing books?
Basically, man, like I started blogging 5 years ago as part of my business. I love writing. I always have. And my thing was, I'm going to write a bunch of blogs. I'm going to let people read them and find me. And basically that's what happened. One day I got an email in my inbox and they said, listen, we've been reading your blogs. We think you're a decent writer. We think you can write some books. It was a publisher, obviously the publisher who's done all 6 books with me.
Who's the shout out for?
For the publisher?
Yeah.
It's Rockridge Press. It's actually an American publisher. So yeah,
Okay.
Much respect to those guys. They gave me my opportunity to write all these books. So
And they did all 6?
for them. Yeah, we did all 6 together.
Amazing.
And that's how it started. And obviously they like working with me. I wrote the first one. It was a good time. And then we wrote a couple more and we got more on the way. So that's about it.
That's really cool. So like, so you started a blog and they just came across it and they reached out to you. That's just how it kind of started.
Essentially, it was like 3-4 years of hard work and just grinding and publishing posts and all that good stuff. Like just what you guys are doing. You're putting in the work. People are seeing your stuff.
Yeah.
You're getting, better, bigger and better guests. I mean, that's how it goes. It was not that much different with my blog.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you find, so I wanted to ask too, is that, I don't know if you know this, is that typically how it happens? Or because like the nutrition industry, I think like you see foods, books popping up, different types of people coming out with stuff all the time. But is the process typically like people start with a blog or start with, social media and they get discovered? Or is it just now people are mostly just saying, I have an idea, let me write a book right away? Like is there a typical path or?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens is like if you are really, really big on social, that's one way to get like a book deal, because the reality is there are editors, so even if you're just a decent writer, if you're kind of inclined to write a book and you have a massive following, obviously the publisher's going to be like, okay, we can make a ton of money off of this person, more or less. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some people self-publish. I don't know too much about that world, but I can see myself doing that one day too. I got to look into it though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What was the first book you wrote?
First book I ever wrote was a DASH diet book. And the DASH diet is basically for lowering blood pressure,
Okay.
and so blood pressure is like one of the number one reasons why people take medication. So if you have like friends or family who are 40, 50 plus, odds are at least one of them is taking blood pressure medication.
I think my dad is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain? So DASH diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. With the DASH diet, is that like a type of diet? Is something that you came up with? I
definitely come up with it.
Okay.
It was invented in the States years ago because basically they found that blood pressure was a massive problem. Everyone had high blood pressure. People were having too much salt because people are eating more processed goods. Basically, sodium, salt, and food is what raises blood pressure. So they came up with this diet, and what it is, it's nothing fancy. It's just like a way of saying, listen, here are the different types of food groups. Don't need too much sodium on top of that. And so they set a sodium limit on top of like telling you to eat your whole grains, your nuts and seeds. Because basically what lowers blood pressure is you eat less sodium, you eat more potassium, more calcium, more magnesium. That's what the DASH diet is. It's not like a true diet where it's like, listen, don't have carbs, don't have this or that. It just
more so like sets parameters on specifically for people with high blood pressure, like try to stay within these parameters.
Basically, yeah. It's like think of it as like a food guide, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting though, because correct me if I'm wrong. Like now with the with keto kind of rapidly growing, one of the big things with keto is you don't retain a lot of water. They say to add a lot of Himalayan salt to your waters and add more salt to food. Wouldn't that kind of contradict it, or is there more to it than that? Like, because they're saying, like, people are saying like the salt isn't as, that's what I'm hearing more so, like it's not as bad, but I mean,
so it depends. The reality is, like, if you have some young person and they're into keto, right, and they're doing all these things for their health, is that person really going to be at risk of having high blood pressure? No. But it's that 56-year-old who's been living off of processed foods, you know what I mean? Different generation. Last time you guys were speaking about your parents, how hard they had it. I really resonated with that. I know it's the same for me. You know what I mean? So you think their generation was worrying about Himalayan salt and they were worrying about cutting out the carbs. All they had was pasta tea. They didn't have money for anything else. So it's like it's a different generation. So for that individual, okay, fine, it doesn't matter. But for the people who are 50, 60 plus, they came from a different generation. Yeah, blood pressure is a real problem and salt is a problem. You know what I mean? For you and I, can we have some salt if we want? Probably it's going to be fine.
Yeah. I guess that more people today are more aware of what they're putting in their body versus back then. I mean, I think my parents ate healthy. My parents always cook at home and all that stuff, but I guess the diet's a little bit different, and people like our age now who are more health conscious, more aware of what's going in their body.
Yeah, I mean, when our parents were our age, now they have the luxury, a lifetime of hard work. Kids who probably push them in that direction, it's different, right? But back then, they probably didn't eat the way that we eat now. So we're fortunate from that perspective.
Well, they didn't have the resources either, right? You think about it, you didn't have all cookbooks, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have recipes. You had whatever your mom or dad taught you how to cook, and whatever your neighbors knew how to cook. That's what
your
you were
grandparents taught them.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. There was just recipes passed from. My mom used to have a little book. Actually, shout out Elaine, a little book with recipes, and it was like just Post-it notes almost.
That's like my mom.
Scribble. And I'm like, Mom, like, why don't you just frame these or get them properly, type them out one day? She's like, no, I'm good. And now she knows most of them off by heart. But I want to go back a little bit. How'd you get into this? Like, did you just wake up one day like, I'm going to be a nutritionist? Like, that's what I want to do. I love food. I want to get people fit, healthy.
Yeah, man, my story is pretty cliche. Like, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I was very unhealthy, And
you're in good shape, man. You're a fit guy.
Yeah, you spend enough time in this world, you get to a certain place. You know what I mean? But when I was younger, even in my late teens, I didn't eat well. It wasn't like my parents are amazing parents. They didn't really emphasize that kind of stuff, but they took good care of me. I can't complain at all. But then I realized, like, when I started getting into the world of food, my life got better. But it took me such a long time to realize what it meant to eat well. I took 4 or 5 years just to figure that out. And I'm like, damn, there's got to be an easier way. And so this is the role I'm trying to fulfill for people right now. Because, now, okay, we're 3 of us sit. We probably have some pretty solid diets. We eat well, we take care of ourselves. But there are a lot of people who have a harder path, and, they struggle, and they don't, maybe they realize, but they don't really act on the fact that food food changes lives. It's simple as that. And, and I got into this basically based on that belief.
Did you go to, I'm assuming you went to some sort of university or college or something for this?
Yeah.
So where'd you go, and is there a program for this, or is it just like sciences, or? Yeah,
basically you have to go to a university that is accredited for like dietetics, it's called. Okay. So you would go to, I went to Ryerson, and then I went to graduate school to U of T. So you go 4 years and you apply to a graduate program, or what they call an internship. So it's basically you train for a year, unpaid, or if you do a master's, then you pay for it and then you train for a year or two.
Then you got to train anyways.
Yeah. So that's what it's like. It's not super intensive. It's not the easiest thing to get into. It's not the hardest thing. You know what I mean? So,
is it when you after you do it, like when you go to school for university and then you want to go to get your post grad, is it become more specialized then, or is the whole kind of dietitian type, like nutritionist like space, is it more like you just learn a little bit of everything? How does it? Can you specialize in one specific type of nutrition, or?
It's unique because a lot of it is kind of like self-directed professional development. So you can go train in any setting, but then you could have a passion or end up in a job in a different setting, and you have to learn that setting. You have to master that, and that becomes your niche. You know what I mean? So it's not like, even though people do specialize, it's not that cut and dry as if like it's a doctor or like I'm a pediatrician or, you know, I'm a gastro. Although some people do specialize in that. For me, I see people with a bunch of different problems that are all kind of like I kind of have like a general practice basically.
Okay.
So people do specialize, but it's not in the way like you'd think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Funny story. I took, and just remind me when we were talking about school, I took a food science course at Western.
Yeah,
at,
Western's one of the places.
Brescia College. It's the all girls
school.
all girls school.
Makes sense.
So they had this food science. I'm like, I know how to eat healthy. I know a little bit about food. How hard can this course be? Yeah, big mistake. Big mistake. I was like, by the end of it, I was like, man, it was tough because you start getting into like the breakdowns of protein. It's more science than it is anything else.
Right.
The breakdown of proteins, the breakdown of carbs, breakdown of how everything compounds together and how they get digested and all the different. Wow. I'm sure you can elaborate a little bit more on that, but certain foods obviously go better with other certain types of foods, right? So I think I did pretty poor in it, which is unfortunate because it was an elective for me.
Yeah.
It's like whenever you do bad in an elective, like how
You
did
probably thought,
why did I
okay,
choose this?
food, I'm healthy, I can do this, and all girls school, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in, and boom, nope, did terrible.
It's not all girls school, all girls campus, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. Like it's the simplest, hardest thing. That's the way. That's what I think.
That's a good way.
Nutrition.
It's a good way, even to think about a diet. It's the simplest, hardest thing you can do.
Well,
I guess like
that's
quitting
actually
smoking, maybe. Theoretically, it's easy to do.
I mean,
just don't
as
smoke.
someone who
It's a
smokes,
decent-
I
it's a
did
decent
it,
analogy.
so
Yeah.
I can tell you dieting is harder than quitting smoking. Like I did smoke,
I don't
so
smoke, I can't. Do you smoke, Andy?
No, I don't smoke.
Heck yeah.
Sorry.
No. I was gonna make a joke, but no, I
if you
could say
quit, though, that's amazing.
One thing I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
say, like I wasn't actually. That's a lie. I did pick up smoking. Anyways, it's
You were a big
just smoke.
smoker
I
in
picked
Europe.
university. I picked it up, and then anyways,
It's a stressful
But
time.
like the thing
Happens.
is too, I did it, which is it's so contradictory because it was smoking is so unhealthy. But then I would still like run. I would still
Right.
like play sports and like try to eat healthy. But to the point of like the easiest, you said easiest, hardest thing, right?
Right.
Like the interesting thing is like now with I consider myself active, like you're really active. I mean, obviously, like we kind of know about the general principles of like what you can eat, what's good. But one thing I found, like when I was growing up, and you go to Tim Hortons in the morning to pick up a coffee. But
Right.
back in the day, people would say, okay, don't get a donut, get a muffin. It's it's got fruits and all that stuff in it.
yeah.
But you think about it, like a croissant isn't as bad because it's a little bit lighter. But then as you get like now, you look back and you're like people eat a muffin or a bagel for breakfast, and like it's pure carbs, it's pure sugars, it's pure bread, and
Yeah.
I could be just just making a general assumption, but that's what I remember when I was a kid. You think like, oh, this has got fruits in it, so it's healthy, or like a granola bar is healthy because it's got granola in it. But like when you actually really dig deep into it and start to look at what goes into stuff and ingredients, especially when it's like a processed thing. It's pretty shocking how it's just like you make an assumption because low fat or low carb or this.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, man. I mean, like, yeah, but if like that just speaks to where you're at. If you're, look, there's nothing wrong with having a donut or a muffin. Don't get me wrong. That's totally fine.
I have a couple.
You got, we're all living our life here, but if you're negotiating between the two, that speaks a lot about like where you're at a time, right? If that's the biggest nutrition negotiation you're making on a day, that's interesting to say the least, right?
Yeah. I love how you said interesting.
Yeah.
No, but we actually just talked about this on a recent episode. We had a good friend of ours, an entrepreneur, Tony Ayala from Queen Street Bakery, and his bread is sugar free. And we started talking about how Subway, they can't call their bread anymore because it's too high in sugar. And I remember being at Western and the healthy option, the healthy option to eat if you needed a quick meal was a sub.
Right.
12-inch chicken teriyaki, 20 grams of protein, 600 calories. You're like, oh, that's healthy.
Right.
And then you think about it. Wait, I never looked at the sugar ever. I never once. I was like, that's bread and carbs. How much sugar can possibly be in it?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an insane amount that they have to legally call their bread something else now. I don't even know what they're going to call it now.
Yeah.
I saw that headline, dude, and that's interesting. Like the thing is, this is what I'll say. For me, I actually train at a place called the Canadian Sugar Institute, funny enough, okay? So I went to a place where back in the day, I was like, oh, sugar's horrible. It's this, it's that, it's the worst thing ever. Right now I have a much more objective view because I worked in that place. I also realized like if you take something that's good for you otherwise, right? If it's whole grain bread, if it's yogurt, whatever the case may be, let's say it's oatmeal, and something that you would say reasonably, you know what, this is healthy for me, this is good for me. If you add 5 or 6 grams of sugar to that, it doesn't make it unhealthy. You know what I mean? That's like my viewpoint now. I saw that Subway article. I haven't read it though. I have to look into that more. That's interesting though. I'm wondering.
I thought it was crazy. It's bread. It looks like bread. It tastes like bread. It's bread. Yeah. But you can't call it bread anymore.
Is that in the States or here? Do you know?
I think it's in the States.
Yeah, that makes more sense. The States.
Well, I
is
saw
more,
Six Buzz shared the article, and I clicked it. It's like one of those like Narcity websites. So again, don't know how legit it is.
Yeah.
Could be fake news too, for all I know. Who knows? But
You know, it is interesting. Like I think that for myself personally, like I think I am a healthy person, but I mean, you can tell by this candy machine behind the camera that was filled up like a week and a half ago. So like I have a sweet tooth for sure.
I think half of that's me probably.
Every time I
come here, I just pour a couple.
Help yourself.
Yeah.
But the one thing for me that I find interesting is like, you know, as you get more aware of what you eat, what you put in your body, you know, there's so many things that like the branding that gets people, I think, in the grocery aisles. Like you walk down something, you see, you know, low fat. So you pick it up because you think it's low fat is healthy, or low carb, or low sodium, or low this. And I'm wondering this out loud. Like I wonder how many people actually stop for a second and think, okay, like, what are my goals in life? What do I want to feel like? How do I want to be? Like, should I be eating low fat? Or is full fat better? Or is low carb better? Or is this, like, you just see the taglines and you see commercials tell you low carb, you know, carbs are bad. So they stop eating carbs. Yeah. But there's different types of carbs and stuff like that, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is the more I've gotten like familiar with this through just being more cognizant of what you put in your body, you either question what you see in grocery aisles. Is this really healthy? Or is it unhealthy? You know, is it okay? Is it passable? Can you eat it? And I guess the marketing industry has done a great job, or the food industry has done a great job of marketing things to make it seem like they're healthy and revolutionary. And I'm not saying they're not. I just don't know.
Yeah, I hate to keep going back to bread. But you think about it in maybe the 50s or the 60s when white bread came out, Wonder Bread or whatever. They marketed it as this like clean, good bread. But it's like, in reality, white bread isn't naturally that white. It's like a tanned or...
it's grain, right?
Yeah, it's not bleached
white. Bread is
white.
Bleached, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you think this isn't that healthy, but it was marketed as the clean, good, healthy new bread, and everyone just bought onto it when in reality it wasn't.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question. What are some of the biggest misconceptions?
That's actually
marketing misconceptions.
Before we jump on it at one point, but I will give a shout out to Wonder Bread, because Wonder Bread grilled cheese or Wonder Bread with Nutella, fire. But anyways, that's a good question. Let's jump back here.
Yeah, you know, so I've seen it all. First of all, you know, I've seen it all. I mean,
we got a lot of time.
Where do we get started? I mean, you know, these days, like you kind of alluded to, like the trends change, right? 10, 15 years ago, it was low fat. You got to avoid fat. You got to do this and that. But now the concept is like healthy fats. You know, your avocado, nuts and seeds, olive oil, your fish, right? And then now, obviously, right, you see, I made a post on this about Instagram today. It's like the keto diet is very popular, right? So low carb, you know what I mean? I have clients who are hearing people tell them you gotta live as if you're living with diabetes or something, and you gotta pretend that you can't have, this is all like not correct information. Yeah. But that's one of the biggest things, the idea that, you know, carbohydrates are bad. You know, even sugar, like, I can't have any sugar. You know what I mean? And then there's stuff about soy. You know what I mean? Soy is massive. Everybody thinks soy, like guys, they think soy is gonna cause them, like, you know, man boobs. That's a very common thing.
Or whatever.
Really? I know the
term, but I don't know what it like.
Essentially, yeah.
So people associate soy with man boobs.
Yes, basically, yeah. Okay, let me ask you. Listen, if you don't like soy, if you like soy, it's all good. But I'm to the point. I've talked to so many clients who don't like it. When I bring it up, I'm already like getting in defensive mode. You know what I mean?
Soy is like
soybeans, tempeh, tofu.
Yeah. I don't mind. I mean, listen, I and I know I'm gonna get chirped by Ricky here. I'm the least picky eater. There's nothing like. Yeah, okay, George eats everything. But like, I'm gonna just get rid of that joke right away. But honestly, like, tofu's not my first choice. But yeah, it's like, it's whatever. It's protein. It's protein, and it's whatever.
I don't mind it. It's just I wouldn't pay extra for it.
That's a very good
like
point.
If I could sub my, you know, if I'm doing try and switch up the menu today and it's okay, I could sub my chicken for tofu. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
If it's, you know, +2, nah, give me the chicken.
Extra chicken.
The thing is, guys, like my thing, like number one thing anyone can do to improve their health, basically, besides eat more vegetables, is to think about their protein intake, right? And then ask, like, what's the variety in your protein intake? Most people, it's chicken and beef. That's the go-to. There's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. All good. I've had a lot of chicken and beef in my life. You know what I mean? But the question becomes then, you know, where else are you getting protein from? Do you know where else protein even comes from? Like you know, beans. Lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh, nuts and seeds, fish. Like, how's your spread? You know, is it all over here in beef and chicken? Or are you getting more of this stuff? Because good health, besides eating more vegetables, which is going to be always the case, is basically comes down to pushing your protein intake a little bit more in this direction. That's the number one thing. If I just pick someone off the street, I could tell them to do one thing besides eat more vegetables, because like that's just going to fall, like go in one ear, out the other.
Eat more vegetables is the hands down number one.
Probably that it has to be. Yeah, it has to be. Vegetables
gets you your antioxidants, it gets you like your minerals, your vitamins,
exactly.
all that kind of
stuff. They're too potent.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What's your go-to vegetable?
I love kale, man.
I was gonna say,
I got
what's
socks on me. I got my kale socks on me.
Show for the camera. You gotta put those up.
The kale socks.
Yeah,
that is pretty
sick. On my
sick.
Instagram page, you see like kale's my thing, man.
Yeah?
But
I will say, like, sorry to cut you off.
No,
like,
all good.
Kale, I think people like make some jokes. Oh, kale's like this big thing now. I actually like it because if you make a kale salad, it doesn't wilt. Like it retains its like
kale
texture.
chips too.
Yeah, I think kale's great.
Actually, kale chips good for you or no?
100%. Like, you know, it's a thing. Like, it's just
Maybe
kale.
it's the way they're cooked or something.
You can make them yourself. You know that, right? Chop it up, throw it in a pan, throw some
Elaine.
salt on it.
Yeah.
Elaine's gonna make it. I know she
for sure.
My mom makes it
Elaine's gonna
sometimes.
hear. She'll be like, okay, we got to triple our vegetable intake. We got to spread out our protein intake. Elaine's my mom.
I know. I figured. I gathered that. PSA kale at any cost. But no, I mean, look, I love kale just because I like it. I truly like. I eat it every day. You know, it's my thing. I'm
Is
weird.
kale expensive?
I'm weird like that.
Like it's more than iceberg or more than romaine lettuce, but.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at what for a bag of chopped kale or for a bunch of kale, $3, and let's say that's 2 servings, so $150 a day
that's
on
not
kale.
bad.
Yeah,
think
you're
that's
putting
reasonable.
something better in your body than.
Do you know what?
Like,
I spend way more on coffee.
Yeah.
You know?
Yo, quick shout out to Ruby Soho, best kale Caesar salad in Toronto. Boom. Shout out
actually,
Ian,
there's
Archie,
good
the rest
at
of the
it.
boys.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
One thing just to jump back, because we kind of segued off there. You were saying about the one piece of advice you would give is, sorry, let me fix this. Is to spread out kind of your protein intake and diversify it.
Diversify it. Yeah, spread it out too, for sure, but diversify it. You know what I mean? Ask yourself the question, like, this week over a 7-day period, where did I get most of my protein from? If it's from one place only, you got to reevaluate that. And the next week you try and get it from somewhere else. That's the number one thing you could do. Even for you two guys here today, that's the number one thing you can do if you want to, do the best you can for your health. If you want to optimize things, and that's definitely true for the average person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we're above average.
Yeah, that's fine.
Damn.
There you go.
Okay. One thing I want to say, and I've not said this here before, but I say it all the time, and I give, shout out to my dad. Shout out to Christos, actually.
A lot of shout outs already. I love
Well,
this.
but my dad, I got to give him credit because he said this as a kid. Like, one thing I will say is my dad was, like, very anti-fast food. So my mom was the one that would, like, sneak, like, take us to, like, Burger King or McDonald's occasionally. My dad was very, like, because he's a big cook, like, cooks at home.
Nice.
Always
sick,
home cooked.
sick
Very,
cook.
very,
Yeah.
honestly, like, very grateful. But one thing he always said to us as kids, and, like, even if it was the, like, junk, whatever, he's like, everything you should eat in moderation. He goes, have, a wide variety of things. But, he said this one, I think maybe when I was like 10 or 12. I was young. And he goes, you're going to see all these fad diets in the 70s and the 80s, the 90s. It always changes. There's a flavor of the day.
Yep.
And the one example he used, I'll never forget this. Personally, I love eggs. I grew up eating them, whole eggs.
Yep.
I like sunny side up was my favorite. And I remember when we were young, to your point, the diet back then was low fat. So the egg yolk, they said, caused cholesterol.
Yep.
And my dad always said, I never forget this. He goes, don't listen to these idiots. He goes, the whole egg is good for you. He grew up in Greece, had a little farm, like they would eat eggs straight from the chickens. So my whole life, just ate whole eggs. And what do you know? A couple, like maybe 5 years ago or so, it's the good cholesterol comes from the yolk. Like now it's good for you all of a sudden. Like, I guess what he was getting at was like, if you eat whole foods, things that are natural, come from the ground, whatever they are, and you eat anything in moderation, it's a pretty good way to live, I guess. I mean, you can correct if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, look, I'm gonna drop something on you right now. I mean, I have clients.
I love how you say that. Eh? I'm gonna drop something on you right now. Listen up, boy.
No, this is key. Listen, I had a client today. He dropped his cholesterol by 50% eating eggs every single day. So
50%.
Yeah, 50%, which is a lot. Like in the world of cholesterol, it's a
crazy.
lot. You drop it 50%. Like doctors love that. The doctor was very happy eating eggs daily. So the reality is, it's like, it's what you eat in sum. Like it's your dietary pattern that dictates your health. It's not like the presence or absence of one thing. You know what I mean? And to your point, like variety is important. Variety is the spice of life. So you have like a bunch of
Frank says that all the time.
Yeah.
There's 3 keys in life.
Variety is the spice of life?
Yeah, but he says it more in a sexual way.
Shout out to Frank.
Yeah.
Who's
Frank?
Shout out to
My dad. Yeah, Frank.
Our dad shout-outs. We never
Frank's-
done that on here.
Frank's, he always used to drop some good knowledge. I won't mention all of them here, but the third one was always varieties of spice of life.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll tell you the first two off air. Don't worry.
That's a good one.
No, I mean, like, because different foods have different types of fiber, and you're basically your gut bacteria. You know, these days it's all about the probiotics,
biome.
the gut health, right? So different foods have different type of fiber. Fiber is essentially more or less it's food for your gut bacteria. You get enough variety, you feed the different types of bacteria, your gut microbiome, like you said, beautiful. It's gonna be better for it. You know what I mean? It's still better to have one favorite food in certain food groups than nothing at all. But if you can get variety, all the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I just want to ask one thing. You said something. It's about the variety, but it's about the pattern.
The dietary pattern. That's the word I use.
Can you explain that? What do you mean by dietary pattern?
Well, the dietary pattern means like looking at the different types of foods you eat over like a 7, 14, 21 day period. So not about what happens in one day, what happens over 7 days, 14 days, 2 months, 3 months. You know what I mean? Across the key food groups. For me, there's 5 key food groups. All right, so I'll tell you what they are, and this is how I kind of evaluate.
Drop this knowledge on us.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it again.
But
maybe in 15 minutes once they washed
that's
out.
Gonna
you know?
be our, that's gonna circle back.
I mean, that's gonna be my new thing. I have to trademark it.
Drop knowledge.
Drop it.
Yeah.
So hit us with the 5.
Yeah, so the 5: vegetables, fruit, nuts and seeds, legumes, and fish. I consider those to be the 5 most important food groups. Now, don't get it confused.
Sorry, say it again. So vegetables,
yep,
fruits,
nuts and seeds,
legumes, and fish.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Now, why?
Oh, you're gonna tell us.
Yeah. Well,
good question, Ricky.
yeah. Basically, people who live the longest eat these 5 foods more often than people who don't. That's what it comes down to.
Makes sense.
Okay. Now,
Eat those primarily because you like. There's no obviously you say meat. So like.
Look, there's tons of other foods you're gonna eat in your life. No problem.
Yeah.
All good, right? You know, you're gonna have if you're eating a normal balanced diet, you're gonna have grains, you're gonna have meat most likely. You know what I mean? Not that many people are vegans or vegetarians or pescatarians. That's fine, right? But I'm saying, are you getting those 5 or not?
Okay.
It's not like what makes you healthy is not what you don't eat. It's like what you eat. You know what I mean? So if someone comes and tells you, you know what, I don't have Coke or brownies, cool. I don't know anything about you. But if you tell me every day I have almonds, I have lentils, I have broccoli, I have an apple, I have salmon, I know so much about you. I feel great about what you're doing. You know what I mean? But most people get caught up, unfortunately. This causes people a lot of issues, like, you know, in terms of their relationship with food. They get caught up in like what not to eat or what they're not eating or what they're avoiding. But that doesn't tell me that much about you. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So
I like the way you described that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
No, I was just gonna say my question I was gonna ask before is kind of more about your practice and what people can expect. But sticking on this point because this is interesting
because I like this.
Yo.
So you think the main thing is the variety and the different patterns that people have rather than avoiding certain things. So it's better for them to have a dispersed diet of, you know, these 5 key ingredients or these 5 key groups.
Yep.
Instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to avoid red meat.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I would feel, 100%. Because like, how much more does it tell you? You know what I mean? Because
if someone comes up to you and says, well, my diet's okay, I don't eat fast food.
Right.
It's like, that doesn't really tell you much.
Yeah, 100%.
It might tell you what you not eat, but if someone says, okay, yeah, I eat primarily X, Y, and Z, and I you know, have some of these, I sprinkle a little bit of this. Yeah, I cheat every, 5 meals or whatever. At least you know.
Right. It also speaks to where they're at mentally in terms of how they think about food. If the first thing someone tells you is what they don't eat, you know, I mean, it's kind of a shame because, you know, how are they approaching food? You know, and it's probably a lifetime of being interacted with food, seeing advertising, seeing what diets their friends are doing that leads them to think that way. And it's unfortunate on some level, right? Yeah. It's as much about what you eat in terms as it is about how you think about what you eat. You know what I mean?
I'm just thinking about this now because I used to train for fitness competitions and triathlons and whatever.
Mr. Greek, Mr. Chin, no big deal. No big deal.
So I've always gone, I know how to get in good shape, or at least I used to apparently.
Yeah, I won't say that anymore.
So people always ask, how do you do it? And I would always say the things I don't eat. And I say I cut out pop, I cut out carbs after lunch.
That's true.
I cut out processed, like shitty processed meat. I never say, oh, this is what I do. You know, I try and eat breakfast every morning. I try and eat lunch. I try and eat the same times every day. I try and have high protein, high vegetables. Right. I usually start with the things I don't eat.
Yeah.
I never thought about that until right now.
Maybe you're never going to do that again, though.
That's funny you said
that. Exactly. That's what I'm going to focus on.
Because for as long as I've known you, like every time I see you eat, like and you've never been one to measure your food or that. Not
No,
really,
yeah,
but like
no.
you eat very healthy, always big salad.
I try
guy.
to, yeah.
But that's funny because I should like maybe I think I remember correctly. Whenever I ask you like, or you talk about what you eat, or someone asks you about your competition, you're always like, yeah, I cut this,
Cut that.
or like I
don't
cut
do
it.
this.
And like when I was training you, I remember you asked me, Mr. Chin, you're like, I was eating broccoli, or no, you said chicken and like asparagus, and I cut out all of these things. But you always focus on what you cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For you,
Thanks.
For you personally,
I'm the problem.
I was gonna say for you personally, like ultimately it probably is not a problem. But generally speaking, for many people out there, for people that I see, it is problematic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
instead of thinking about going to the grocery store and thinking, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, they should be walking down the road. I'm allowed to eat this, or I can have this, I can have a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically. And if you have a food that you love that makes you happy, I mean, it's a damn
Everything
shame.
in moderation, right?
It's a damn shame if you're not letting yourself have it. And like, what's the effect of that going to be on your quality of life and stuff like that? You know, food is supposed to improve your quality of life. Like how you interact with food, it should increase your quality of life across the board, health-wise, longevity-wise, but also mentally. You know what I mean? I don't just mean like mentally as in, oh, this food helps your mental health. I mean that you feel good about the choices you're making. You understand that certain foods, offer you this benefit, but other foods can make you happy in a different way. You know what I mean? And it's a fine line. And yeah, it's an important topic.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Even when I was training for my triathlon or these fitness competitions, and when I'd have my cheat meals, I'd enjoy them so much.
Right.
Now, if I have a cheat meal, because I'm in probably the worst shape, one of the worst shapes of my life right now currently. When I eat a burrito and I feel crappy after, I'm like, crap. Not only did I know that was going to make me feel crappy, I didn't even really enjoy it. I ate it for purpose rather than for enjoyment.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas if you're dieting properly and you get those 6 donuts and you get to just shove them down your throat, you're like, put them down your gullet. You're just like, heck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for when you really want something, like when you really want it, you have it and you enjoy it for what it is, and then you move on with
and if you like trained hard all week and you were all perfect with your diet and you enjoyed it, when you go to Mandarin on that Sunday night, you're like, oh, I'm gonna destroy this buffet.
When's the last time you went to Mandarin?
Like a year ago.
Yeah, well, I think
I haven't been to the Mandarin since I was like a teenager.
You know what's crazy? When I was young, I used to love going like eating
for birthdays. So
my
I take a
family
picture
would
with your
go.
We
Polaroid.
went after with the guys once after like baseball or something. We went the one up in
I
like.
still love Mandarin.
Anyways, I
yeah.
ordered
It's
it once
gross,
recently. It
but
was
love
tough.
it.
Yeah.
I went by myself once for lunch.
Really?
So
by yourself.
randomly, we did
What
this.
a
We did this
loser.
job out in the Oshawa airport, and on I guess the entrance near the highway to get back on, there's a Mandarin out in Oshawa.
Oh, really?
So driving by, this lunch special was $19.99 or $18.99. I was like, okay, how can I not? And I was starving. It was like 2 p.m. Hadn't ate. So I literally walked in. I was like, when time's the lunch special done? Like 2:30. I'm like, done. Sat down, had like 4 plates going by myself in like my construction gear, just ready to rock and roll.
Respect.
Oh man,
I feel like
I
all you can eat
respected that
sushi.
meal.
I feel like all you can eat sushi is the new Mandarin.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
actually that's a fair point.
Yeah, I feel like that's
Because you get everything at all you can eat sushi too. It's not just sushi, right? You get the shrimp tempura rolls or the shrimp tempura. Sorry.
One thing that you talk a lot, you made some points there about how it made you feel mentally. You said something earlier on that it took you like 5 years or so to get into this and change, and you started to notice how it made you feel physically and mentally.
Right.
Do you find there's a certain type of diet, a certain way of eating that you find makes you more like clear mentally versus one that like bogs you down? So like obviously eating fast food all the time is going to make you feel maybe mentally unclear.
Right.
Is there something specific for your clients that you tell them, eat this way and it makes you feel better and
Drop the knowledge. Drop it.
I'm waiting for that one. I'm gonna drop it now.
As soon as this question started extending, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna drop it, but since you asked, I was gonna just change the subject. But no, but the thing is, man, like everyone's different. So you know how I did drop on you guys the 5 key food groups, right?
Yeah.
That's a starting point. You know what I mean? But guess what? What if someone's vegan? Fish is out. So what are we going to do there? You know what I mean? What if someone is allergic to nuts? Oh, if you want. Okay. So basically, let's talk about fish for a second.
Fuck yeah.
So, so here's going to be some stats, some knowledge being dropped, whatever. So in Canada, what happens is this, okay? Half the year, the sun's quite weak. So we can't make vitamin D from it. Okay. So guess what has vitamin D? One of the only foods that has a ton of vitamin D is fish. And guess what the other one is? It's eggs. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
How does eggs
that's interesting because I did a physical last year and they told me the one thing that I'm deficient in is vitamin D.
You eat fish.
Which is normal. But I actually eat a lot of fish and I eat a lot of eggs. Like I wasn't like deficient, but they said you could use a little bit more vitamin D. So I actually take like a little
So wait, so how do eggs have it but not chicken?
It's in the yolk. So I mean,
Hell yeah, Christos, tell me to eat the yolk, baby.
yeah, I mean,
I didn't know that.
In terms of how that is, you know what? I don't know. Yes, that's
gotta be a
question
real
for
scientist to get it now.
That's for a farmer, maybe. Maybe next time you get a farmer on here.
We'll get an egg farmer on. We should get an egg farmer on here.
Sponsored by the eggs, Eggs on Terror.
You need to be sponsored by the Egg
yeah.
Farmers of Canada.
Yeah, we should be sponsored by eggs.
This
Farmer
episode-
Canada. It's coming. Sponsorship's coming.
Yeah, so the
yeah.
fish and eggs that are
Fish is by far though the highest source of vitamin D, and so you ask like part of the question is like why does fish make it onto the list of the 5 key food groups, right? Fish is so unique. It has a lot of vitamin D, and the other one it has, which I'm sure you guys have heard about, is omega-3s. Okay, there's no food that has either one of those in such high supply as fish, and there's no other food that has them both together in such high supply. So eggs, if you get an omega-3 egg, let's say from the grocery store, you get an omega-3 egg, they fed the chicken flaxseed, so there's a bit of omega-3 in the yolk, there's some vitamin D.
Is that how they do it? They feed the chicken flax seeds?
They feed the chicken flax seeds, yeah.
It's that simple?
As far as I know, you know, that's another question for a farmer.
egg farmer.
I'm pretty sure.
Egg Farmers Association of Canada coming right at you.
Look, I'm going to fact check this after. I hope
No, don't worry. We got our boys that are going to fact check this. Don't worry. Vishal, you listening?
I'm pretty sure I've read that on the package. They feed them flaxseed, right? Yeah. So that's also why they're more expensive, because flaxseed's going to be more expensive than the usual stuff they feed chickens.
Yeah.
So fish has both of those things, right? Now in Canada, like I was saying earlier, many Canadians don't get enough vitamin D. This is why you're going to see vitamin D supplements pushed all the time. This is why they're top sellers. You know, this is how people fall short in vitamin D. So what kind of fish do you eat most often? How often is often for you? Just if you
For me,
if you wanna share, yeah.
like salmon or tuna probably is probably the most common. Yeah, or halibut too. Yeah,
halibut probably for me. And I have fish probably, shrimp actually too. I probably fish at least once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say once, twice a week. I probably have it.
Twice a good week, once a simple week.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see at once a week how you could be not getting enough vitamin D, right? And I would.
What do you think is a good amount?
3 times? It also depends on the amount you have, right? Because someone could have a little piece.
I'm
like if I eat a piece of halibut, it's probably like that. Like salmon, the same thing. Tuna, if I ever have tuna, it's probably like at a restaurant or picking it up somewhere, and it's either tuna, or if I make a salad, you're a can of tuna, or like, you know, like when they kind of saute whatever they do it, it's like a little small couple pieces, right?
Yeah, like seared or whatever.
Exactly. Typically not. I'm probably not eating enough fish personally.
I would say minimum twice a week, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Minimum twice a week.
All
right. And you know,
that down,
salmon. Yeah. So if you're having it once, have it twice. The way I see it, even if you're having it twice, you know, you really like it. You know, you can have it 3 times.
I love fish.
You know what I mean?
You know what's funny though? I rarely, if I go to a restaurant, I'll have fish at home, no problem. I like to cook it, but I never order at a restaurant. I always feel like, am I gonna restaurant? I'm like, I'm gonna order fish. I want like meat or something. Like,
right.
It's just
That's
a weird
actually
thing.
true,
I'm never like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go for that sea bass or that branzino or that tuna or that
Branzino
salmon.
Sometimes I do. The branzino.
Branzino's sick. I actually do have a question.
It just sounds cool too.
Branzino?
They don't give you a lot though, I find, with branzino. So like for me, I'm not
It's
down with
expensive.
And then you gotta
Branzino.
pick away at it too sometimes.
Yeah, you have to put the words too much.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be doing that.
So because omega-3 fat, like omega-3, you see it in especially like at Costco. They have the big cans,
Of course,
and it's good for you. So the benefits, you said omega-3 and vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
So what are the benefits of each? Like why is like omega-3 fatty acids, it's good for like brain function? I guess that's the extent that I know. What is the benefits you get from it, and why is it so important?
Right. Well, look, I mean, omega-3s do a lot, right? So
What do they do?
They're
Sorry.
they're most famous for being anti-inflammatory. You see that all the time, right? Because what happens is, like, I'm trying to get too scientific because I'm not even that scientific to begin with, right? So basically, your cells in your brain, your body, they have a bunch of fats in the membrane. Now, they want omega-3s to be there, but your body can't make omega-3s. So if you don't eat enough, your cell membranes are not going to have omega-3s. And the omega-3s, when they're in the membrane, they send anti-inflammatory messages as compared to what they call like pro-inflammatory messages. So basically, you eat them and they make their way into like your cellular structure. They become like part of you, essentially. You know, I'm sure there's going to be some like PhD who's going to say it's not quite how it is. It's close enough for our purposes.
Yeah,
For us, right?
You know
And
what I
I
mean?
understood that. It makes
100%.
sense to me.
Yeah.
Like listen, it's for lay
Of
people,
course,
right?
I
We
know.
want like and our
Yeah,
our friends and family.
don't get too crazy on it.
Yeah, we want to know like why we're doing it and eating it.
Can't drop too much knowledge.
No.
Just enough.
My specialty, man, is just giving info in digestible ways too. You know, I keep it at that level. So
keeping it simple is the best too. It makes it easier to understand.
Yeah.
I find also like anything in life, you overcomplicate it. Like it's
100%.
too much. You got to keep it simple for everybody. The simpler, the better.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, this is also Mental Health Awareness Week, I think it is. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I just dropped an article. Sorry, I keep using that word now. I'm gonna use this all the time now.
I love it. Keep dropping it
on this episode.
And what they found is actually increasing omega-3 intake can actually help with anxiety. Right?
I didn't know that.
And anxiety globally, it's like I'm pretty sure it's the number one mental health condition. It's anxiety and depression are both up there. If you look at all the people in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, anything you're not getting enough of is important. You know what I mean? So like magnesium, I bet you guys have seen or know someone they take magnesium. But it's not because magnesium is a super nutrient. It's because we're most likely to fall short in it. Because guess what's in magnesium? Nuts and seeds. Guess what magnesium is in? Nuts and seeds and legumes. I bet you know people who eat well who don't eat those foods regularly. And then guess what happens? You can fall short in magnesium. And just like vitamin D and omega-3s, are they like super nutrients? If you fall short in vitamin A, guess what? Vitamin A is a super nutrient for you. So it's not like vitamin D is magic. It's like it's just the easiest to not get enough of. So as a result, it becomes more important. But vitamin D, bone health, immune health, which is obviously getting so much coverage now.
Yeah.
So
that's the important thing, going back to saying like it's important what you eat, not what you don't eat, because then like understanding what they eat, like you even made a point about like legumes, nuts and seeds. Personally, if my parents didn't raise me to eat like lentils, beans and all that kind of stuff, which I hated as a kid, the way they made it, like now it's part of my routine and I eat it. Yeah. And like that's something
you're lucky.
I get.
You're lucky because that wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Funny story. Not really funny, but I find it funny. When I was a kid, there's a way to make like a lentil soup. I'm Greek, and it's like I guess a Greek style soup, and hated it. But I know lentils are pretty good in iron, I think, and something like that. I think maybe magnesium. But my parents knew we hated it, and on Halloween every year they would make it. Like we'd have it other times, but Halloween, if we didn't eat it, they make a big bowl for each of us. If we didn't eat it, we couldn't go trick or treating. My dad.
I know you ate it.
No, I
know you ate the whole thing, my boy.
Take notes.
You can't
I used to hate it, but then now I love it because I knew that candy was coming after, so I'd shovel it in. But I actually, I
just picture the meme of Zeke.
That's what
Zeke
I look
eating
like.
the soup.
That's what I ate like. I would just shove it down, and I'm like, okay, go get the candy. But yeah, no. Like those are some things that I definitely like personally. I would definitely be deficient in if my parents didn't like force us to eat it as kids.
So you mentioned why fish and legumes are on that list of those 5. Okay, why are the other 3? I just said 4.
100%.
Why are the other 3?
Vegetables are vegetables.
Vegetables are vegetables.
Well, fruits and vegetables are on
we
there
talked
for
about kale
similar
and
reasons.
Yeah.
Fruits and vegetables are on there for similar reasons. Antioxidants, like you said, vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Those are the big 4, right? And it's easy just to like shoot those out as just like words, but there's so much variety in antioxidant intake. There's so much variety in the different vitamins and minerals and the even different types of fiber that are in these different things. And your body thrives with all these different things. You know what I mean? So for example, like tomatoes have antioxidants that are good for your prostate. You know what I mean? And
I ate a lot of tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And then where other fruits and vegetables are going to have something that's going to be better for something else. Like for example, bananas are high in what's called soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is good for lowering your cholesterol. You know what I mean? Other fruits and vegetables might not be high in that type of fiber. So this is where variety comes in. Variety is so important. So that kind of covers fruits and vegetables. And nuts and seeds, well, what do nuts and seeds give? They give those kind of cliche healthy fats, right? They contain a ton of antioxidants, okay? And the healthy fats in nuts and seeds, they help lower cholesterol too. You know what I mean? We talked about blood pressure earlier. Cholesterol, which I have in one of my books, my low cholesterol cookbook.
Here.
Not to plug it or anything.
Plug it. Plug away.
I mean?
Plug away.
Drop some knowledge.
No, it was to plug it. It's fine. But nuts and seeds lower cholesterol. You know what I mean? Simple as that. The funny thing is, this is just for some Toronto love. The guy who came up with the type of diet it's called the portfolio diet, which is what my book is based on. He's a British guy who is a doctor. He lives in Toronto. He invented the diet at St. Michael's Hospital. It's called the portfolio diet. Okay, it's tree nuts.
What's his name?
Oh my God, I'm having a massive brain fart.
It's okay.
No. Oh my God, man, I pretended to be him in a food demo at school. I'm just having it's gonna come to me.
It'll come back.
Dr. Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins. All good. Dr. Jenkins. Funny enough, his wife is a dietitian.
Really?
Yeah, of all the things. So British guy, lives in Toronto. He came up with this diet that is most effective at lowering cholesterol. It's cool.
That
right?
is
Toronto
cool.
Connection, St. Michael's Hospital.
That's awesome.
Right?
And so these recipes in here that you put in here, are these picked based because of your favorite? Are they put in here because of, is it a variety? Like what was the rhyme or reason you selected these ingredients? Are these recipes?
Yeah. Well, basically, like for this type of book, for the cholesterol book, basically the first two chapters, it's going to teach you the principles you need to apply to lower your cholesterol. And then the recipes bring that to life.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Which is why the recipes are a bigger part of the book, because the most important thing for people is not necessarily the knowledge, but how they're going to apply it in their daily life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I dropped the knowledge. I dropped the knowledge in the first chapter, and then I show you how to bring it to life with the recipes.
I guess it's important too, right? Because just giving somebody a cookbook, it's like, okay, here's the recipes. That might be good when they pick it up and they're excited off the shelf. But I think like by adding that at the beginning, explain the principles, it makes it like easy for a person and gives them the habits of how to do things. Because I think one of the big things too is like when you want to try to get healthy, and like whether you want to change your diet, the way you're active, it's building like the healthy habits, but understanding the principles of what lays the foundations. So I mean, anyone can go start picking up kale off the shelf, right? But if you're not understanding, okay, like but it's understanding those principles. Yeah. So I think it's great that you lay these out for people and like understand like why. Like, this is why the ensuing recipes are going to help you achieve the results that you want.
100%. And that goes for anything in life. If you know the reason behind what you're doing and your motivation is like properly justified with your actions, it's going to be easier to change any behavior. You know what I mean?
I told this on one of our recent episodes. When I was so good at high school math, the basic stuff, the triangles.
Yeah, I remember this.
When you get into the graphs and the sine and cosine and all that, not like gibberish, I almost didn't even pass. I'm like, well, how is this practical?
Right.
When am I ever going to need to measure the curve on a graph? Never, ever. And I was terrible at it because I didn't find it practical. I didn't find any reason that I needed to know that.
Yeah.
If someone told me that, you might get into construction one day and this is pretty useful in construction, I might have paid attention.
Right.
But
I'm pretty sure you got to be like a physicist or like a math professor.
Engineers know that stuff.
The engineers, I respect engineers.
People in buildings, right? So.
Of all the diets here on the book, so you've written 6 total.
6, yeah.
There are 3 of them here.
What are the other 3? Sorry, actually, let's go in order.
Well, which?
All right, that's gonna test me. But
so the low cholesterol is the low cholesterol first.
No. The first one. So these 3 are my most recent ones, which is why I actually even have copies like on me. First one I wrote was the DASH diet.
Right?
Yes. Sorry.
DASH diet.
Second one I wrote is the one that actually changed how I actually live my life. I wrote a pescatarian cookbook, and I actually became a pescatarian after I wrote it.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. So I've been like a pescatarian essentially for like maybe 8 months or something. You know what I mean? So I've had a lot of chicken and beef in my life, but I actually literally tried. I gave pescatarianism a shot. It's been cool. Since I started. So I wrote a pescatarian one.
I love that, eh?
I'm really proud of that one. I'm really proud of that one. And then I wrote a low sodium one that you see here, the low cholesterol one, intermittent fasting one. And damn, I know what is that. How
That's 5.
Oh, acid reflux, which is a big thing.
Wow.
Acid reflux.
Okay, let's talk.
Yeah. So, wait. Okay, fine. I'm gonna ask you about this one after.
Yeah.
I'm big on intermittent fasting. You go first.
Acid reflux. So I have really bad acid reflux. So I'm the type of guy that I carry Tums around like everywhere I go.
All right.
If I'm going out for dinner and drinks, I've got at least like 6 Tums on me.
True. Okay.
Because between the dinner and drinks, I can't eat and drink at the same time. Like I'm talking liquor or booze. I can't eat and drink without getting heartburn. It's like guaranteed.
Like you're talking about going out specifically.
Yeah. Or even if I cook at home too.
Right.
Mind you, I don't really cook.
Do you find there's certain foods that give you heartburn?
No, everything.
Really?
Almost everything.
You might have a problem.
Do you ever lay down after you eat? That's a big one too. Like, so grabbing some food, grabbing a snack and going to kick back.
I eat lying down and I never get
Some people can get away with it, but I wouldn't recommend it because eventually most people, you end up paying the price for that.
Well, buddy, you're going to be stuck with me in a couple years, eh?
So, if I can give you a piece of advice, if that's something you really do, it may come back to get you a little bit. So basically, there's a lot of things that can
tell us about that book, the acid reflux book.
Yeah, I mean,
what's it called?
Honestly, it's probably the easy 5-ingredient acid reflux cookbook. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
I'm the worst at coming up with my titles in my books. I'll be on Instagram story. I'm like, guys, I'm so happy. I gotta announce this book. Just give me a sec. Here's the title. The titles are long. I mean, you look at the titles; they're long. Man. I can't remember all.
You got the cue card?
That's like. Yeah. I gotta look down and then see what they are. It's the easy 5-ingredient, and that's not because I'm not extremely proud of them. It's just like the titles are long. I can't always remember them. You know what I mean? Anyway,
that's so funny.
But it depends, man. Like if you eat quick, if you eat distracted,
you eat for sure. He
Yeah,
doesn't breathe when he eats.
Yeah, but you know what's weird? My brother eats quicker than I do, and he doesn't get acid reflux or heartburn. Nothing.
I mean, first of all, it doesn't mean he'll never get it because you know what happens with acid reflux.
Maybe I just got it early.
You could be prone to it. Certain things can make it worse. Spicy food, alcohol, onions and garlic for some people. But eating quick, eating really, really big meals, eating like, not being like engaged in the meal. So like typing here, shoving it in the food in here. You know what I mean? Eating super hot food can do it for some people. Eating super spicy food, I think I already said that. I mean, there's other stuff.
That's interesting.
Which you're gonna have to get the book if you want to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, a lot of people come to me and they have acid reflux. So I actually just wrote an article today that I put on my blog, right, about the top 4 medications in Canada. Acid reflux is one of the most prescribed reasons for one of the most common reasons for being prescribed medication. That's how big the problem it is.
Wow.
So I'm not alone in this. This is like a
I
pretty
think it's
big
pretty
thing.
common. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, and most people will say, Andy, I didn't have this 2 years ago. But it's kind of like going running and you only wear one shoe and then eventually you hurt your calf or something. Well, yeah, you got away with it for 2 years, but now there's a price to pay when you don't do things right, because your body doesn't really care. Like, your body works a certain way and your body doesn't care that you have a deadline to type up what you're eating. Like, if you keep doing that, probably something bad might happen,
My stomach just like growls. Like, are you paying attention?
I have a question. Does it have to do with your gut bacteria and gut biome at all or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, there's a little bit of evidence that taking a probiotic could help with acid reflux. That's not like the main thing, though. It's not like, you have acid reflux, let's give you a probiotic.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of evidence there, and there's a little bit of evidence that this type of fiber called psyllium fiber, like, you guys ever seen Kellogg's All Brand buds in the store?
Yeah.
So those have psyllium fiber in them, which is why on the package it says they lower your cholesterol. Because what psyllium fiber does, it's a type of soluble fiber, which basically means it goes through your system, it goes really slow, and it absorbs everything on the way.
And it takes it out with it.
Essentially, it takes things out with it. So when things go, one of the big problems I have is people eat quick, or they eat foods that digest very quickly and enter their bloodstream very quickly. You know what I mean? Like that refined flour, stuff like that. So when you have something like a psyllium fiber that slows things down, it gives your body time to do the work. You know what I mean? And so that helps with everything. It helps with blood cholesterol. Sorry, it helps with cholesterol. I'll explain why in a sec. Helps with blood sugar, as you can imagine. The slower things go, the longer it takes to get into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Helps with digestive health, because your digestive system can do the work more easily when things are moving through at a more moderate pace. I'm gonna give you a little bit of science, not too much, but if you ever want to know why you see all brand buds, why they lower cholesterol, why they do that. So they go through your digestive tract, they absorb some fats in your digestive tract, right? And eventually you basically poop them out. Mm-hmm. Then your body needs to replace that. So where does it go? It goes to your bloodstream, takes the cholesterol out of the bloodstream instead, then your blood cholesterol goes down. That's one of the potential mechanisms basically of how it works. All right. So
wow. And what other foods or types of foods is psyllium fiber in?
So psyllium fiber specifically is extracted from a plant. So it's only available as a supplement or added to very few foods like all brand buds. But soluble fiber, which is a type of fiber that psyllium fiber is one of, is found in way more types of things. Okra, zucchini.
I hate
lentils,
okra.
Tofu.
What's okra?
Okra are little. They look like little bells, like little bell peppers almost, but they have like hair on them. Slimy. That's why I hate them.
That's soluble fiber.
I said I will eat anything. It's the one thing in the world I will not. I will literally eat anything in the world. I've tried anything once. Okra, I hate them.
Right.
I know, Rick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not picky, but like I can't.
I don't even know what okra is.
Yeah.
They're called bamyas in Greek. Anyways, I know them because they're big in Greek culture. Like they eat them a lot. Yeah.
You gotta Google okra later.
I will.
You will not like it. What else? Lentils or
lentils, zucchini, carrots have it, bananas, oatmeal. So I encourage anyone, you Google soluble fiber and you see what comes up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a question I had, now I'm forgetting.
Well, you got that. Mine's completely unrelated.
Yeah.
Emergency. So we were talking about like immune system, immune health a little bit earlier. Is that actually good for you, or is that just a marketing hoax?
Yeah. I mean, like, there is like some evidence around taking a bunch of vitamin C around the onset of feeling like the flu, that it might help. I mean, the evidence is not super strong. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's tough to say. Is it a hoax? No. Is it the most like surefire silver bullet guaranteed thing? No.
Well, what's better for you? Drinking an emergency or drinking orange juice in the morning? Well, I guess
what's better for you is to eat a balanced diet with all the food groups in it.
Fair point. That's fair. Because it used to be back in the day, like Tropicana is vitamin C because it's orange juice, and you realize how much sugar's pumped into it, and so.
Vitamin C is actually not something people fall short in, because all it takes literally is one orange to get enough vitamin C. So if you look at like Canadians on average, if I pull a random Canadian on the street in Toronto, vitamin C is probably not their problem.
What's the most common problem? Cholesterol?
Vitamin D. Well, I
Vitamin
mean, it
D.
depends. It depends what you're
you also-
talking about.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Because if you're talking about like the blood levels of vitamins, vitamin D is big. Magnesium, right? Those two are pretty big. But if you're talking about like actual problems, well, think like the 4 reasons why people take medication are acid reflux, cholesterol, high blood pressure, and then depression. All right. So those are the 4 most common reasons that you're going to get prescribed medication in Canada.
Yeah.
Right. And I've written books on 3 or 4 of those things because you know what?
I didn't know depression was that high.
Depression is one of the
Anxiety
antidepressants.
Antidepressants.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's one of the most common reasons why people take medication.
Again, circling back to the thing you said at the beginning about like how you change your diet, you start to feel better.
Yeah.
It took you a long time to do it. And to the point of how medication or medication is prescribed so easily, and there's so much of it now because it solves or attempts to solve certain problems.
Right.
Do you find that if more people were more cognizant of what they're eating, started with the foundations of a healthy diet, it could or would help alleviate some of these problems, like people getting some of these problems as they got older, like in the
there's no question, 100%. That's the number one thing you could do.
Yeah.
Is if you're not embracing some of the principles we talked about so far today, you start doing it. Because the reality is, the funny thing is, you take cholesterol medication, like the function of cholesterol medication in your body is not that different than some of the foods that lower it. Like they work in a similar way.
Yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
interesting.
Similar but different, so that you could do both and get like an additive effect. But it's not that different. You know what I mean? Which is the funny thing. They work on similar or like relatively similar systems. So, you know.
Yeah. So
That's interesting though.
I was
Like how they work, like they're basically fighting each other, but they work on the same system.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like it's the old adage of like when it comes to anything, whether it comes to like cleaning or it comes to maintaining your car or anything, like what a lot of people do is they just like, it's like, what is doing something to doing preventative maintenance is, I guess, more of a nuisance because you have to keep doing it. And people think that that's more annoying than waiting until something goes wrong and then fixing it and doing it in one shot. But really, whether it comes to like keep maintaining your car or your body or keeping your house clean, whatever it is, if you do a little bit a day, it's a lot easier and probably better for you in the long run than just waiting until something goes wrong and fixing it. Waiting until something goes wrong and fixing it. And then at the end, especially when it comes to your health, is like, you know, your cholesterol. You leave something out for so long, and then you have to take medication where it's like, you know, if I ate a couple, I'm going to throw this as an example, like a banana a day kind of thing or whatever it is, like nuts a day, would be a lot cheaper, more and probably better for you in the long term than waiting and saying, whatever, I'll figure it out down the road when I'm old.
100%. Lentils are like medicine. Like I literally tell my clients, like, you know, literally if you just put some lentils and stuff, even if they're not your favorite, like it's almost like taking medicine every day. Because this isn't like that movie with Bruce Willis, you can get a new body, right? This is not like that. I can't remember what that one's called, but it's like, this is real life. You know what I mean? So you got to take it seriously.
You know what? I'm going to have lentil soup tonight.
I love lentils.
There you go.
My mom made me some.
love them
I have
now.
lentil soup at home. I'm going to have it.
Shout out to Christos and Anastasia. You guys are the best. Lentils. Make me some. I'll come eat them on Halloween. I want. So
Do you remember your question, by the way?
Well, I know, but I know this kind of segued to something else because about like people getting healthy and all that stuff. What's the one piece? I mean, besides like the eat a variety of things, if someone comes to you, what's the first piece of advice? Like the one thing that you would ask them or tell them, like that start the foundation of the building blocks. Like one simple thing to change their habits.
I want to know their motivations because you have to tap into people's motivation. You know what I mean? Is it themselves? Is it their family? You know what I mean? Very often, like I work with young adults who have just had kid, and then their doctor tells them, oh, guess what? You know, if you keep going on this rate, you're going to be on a ton of medication by the time you're 50. That's scary. You should have a daughter, a son, whatever the case may be. So I'm very interested in people's motivations because that's important. Like where they're at, like what gets them going, why they came to see me, why me, why now? You know what I mean? That's important. So that's probably it. So it's not just about the food; it's about the individual and where they're at. You know, a little bit about like what hasn't worked for them in the past. Like how do they interact with food? Like have they been through the spinner? You know what I mean? This diet, that diet. You know what I mean? Like has it been since they were a teenager where their moms commented on their eating habits and they have all this built up stuff? Like I need to that stuff will help you on how to work with someone, how to talk to someone.
You're trying to understand their psychology as much as their behavior patterns and all that stuff. So like how they think, like how they're thinking about things and how they go about acting, like interacting with the foods and like that kind of stuff, and then you cater it from there or you build it from there.
Yeah, a lot of times we're working with people on changing the way they think about food. You know what I mean? Sometimes someone can have a solid diet, but it's not quite right how they approach things. You know what I mean? And it's almost like a, you know, like kind of like a ticking time bomb. It's like they're doing really well now, but if they keep on thinking about food in this way, in this like cut and dry way, like, you know, it could be problematic later. So
That's interesting.
everyone's different though. That's the one thing you learn when you do this. Everyone's different. You know what I mean? Everyone's so different. Everyone has their own journey. You know, my journey is super unique. Your guys' journey is super unique, and like every other random person you're going to encounter, they have their own journey when it comes to food. Because that's one thing, like, you know what I mean? You could play sport, and only you know what it's like to play youth hockey in Toronto, but everyone knows what it's like to eat. We all eat every day. You know what I mean? Unless you do some like wild fasting, which I also wrote a book on.
Which I want to ask that.
I knew that was coming, so I queued you up for it.
Hey,
Ask you go first before
I
we
was
jump
just,
over.
well, we're talking a little bit about your career. I guess two questions. Why does someone come see you? Is it because their doctor recommends you or whatever? And the second part is, what's a typical session? I guess you call them sessions?
Yeah.
What's a typical meeting with a client look like?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna answer the first one first. The reality is, like, what I do, I help people with pretty much every what I call like low to medium risk problem about food. So if they have an issue that can be fixed by food, whether it's cholesterol, whether they want to like, you know, they want like a meal plan because they want to gain some weight, they're working out, you know what I mean? Whether they want to try like intermittent fasting, you know, whatever the case may be, whether maybe their gut health isn't right. Anything that's not super complicated. And what's super complicated? Like, oh, you're on insulin, you have type 1 diabetes. Well, you need to be seen by someone who only does that. You know what I mean? There's certain issues that you should only see someone who only does that, and they spend their whole life on that, right? But I see all sorts of people. My practice is a general practice, and I make sure that I can operate that at a high level with my writing. You know what I mean? So obviously, you write a book on a topic, you're gonna be able to speak on that topic pretty damn well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And that's my philosophy. So I prove to people that I can help with a bunch of issues by writing about them, by studying them. Typical session, you know, it changes from person to person. When you come in my office, I'm going to ask you, what brings you to see me today? I literally say that exactly that. And like, if they're virtual, I'll say, what brings you to see me virtually today? You know what I mean? Whatever.
I'm smirked a lot now.
It's just as lame as it look right
Do
now.
you say that to them? You're like, I've used that a lot. It's like,
He's going to say it tomorrow and think of us.
Yeah. No, I'm straight up saying I'm funny like that, you know? So.
Andy, you are pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'll tell you honestly.
Yeah, well, you check my Instagram, you see the jokes are a big part of humor, making it light, you know, because so many people
They have a very serious relationship with food and everything.
Yeah, food is like most people's interaction with food is this is bad, you know, why you shouldn't eat this, why your oil is like harvested with like toxins and all this stuff, you know what I mean? And I like to make light of that, you know what I mean? That's not for everybody, you know what I mean? But if that's for you, you probably come to see me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I want to jump back now because I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting.
Cool.
I don't always do it properly, but I do. There's two things that I find. This is just for practice. I probably should read this, and I will read this afterwards because I find it very interesting. So I've been I try to do the 16-8.
Yeah.
I don't always make it. Sometimes I get very hungry, but I do find two things. I find that like. Number one, it's been the most effective for me. I tried keto when I was training for a boxing match. I did.
Nice.
I did a keto diet. It did help me lose a lot of water weight. But then after I stopped it, I kind of put it back on because I found it's number one. Like I love cheese. I can eat I eat a lot of olive oil and olives. I mean, I'm Mediterranean, but I find it's hard to sustain. Like eating that much fat is tough.
Right.
I find with intermittent fasting, I can still kind of eat whatever but really what I want.
That's why I like it.
Don't feel as guilty about it. Like if there's days where I normally eat like a burger and fries and I'm craving it, I'll just fast a little bit longer and I don't feel like I'll eat it. My insulin spikes and I feel tired after.
Right.
The one thing I find that for me, I notice, and maybe there's a reason to this, I find if I eat carbs at night with my dinner, I'm hungry early in the morning. If I don't and I eliminate carbs completely, I can last till like 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. the next day without having, like I don't feel as hungry.
Right.
Is there like a reason behind that? Is it because how fast they digest? And is there an approach that you recommend that's different? Do you tell people they can eat whatever they want for dinner, or is it certain structure to it?
All right, so
I threw a lot at you.
That one question has nothing to do with fasting, and I answer that one first, and then I'll talk about fasting.
Sorry, I just went on a little tangent there.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, like, what makes you feel full is protein and fiber, right? So you're saying when you have more carbs at dinner, you feel more hungry in the morning. Well, could that mean that as a result you have less protein, less vegetables, less fiber? That's the only explanation I can think of. Obviously, you know, I don't know exactly how much it differs based on what you're eating.
Yeah.
So that is one possible reason. If you don't have carbs, you eat more veggies and protein. So then that would make sense why you're more full in the morning.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and as it relates to fasting, I mean, the thing is, I'm actually a big proponent of fasting, but because of that, I'm extra hard on it. So, like, the biggest mistake I think people make is they think like, oh, let me go. I gotta do 16. I gotta start at 12 and stop at 8. Like that's not the point. The point is, listen, like, how long do you go from one bite one day to your last bite one day to your first bite the next? Can you go a little bit longer? You know what I mean? And how often can you do it? How often do you want to do it? You know, if you're hungry, don't fast. If you're full, go a little bit longer if you want. You know, what's always most important is what you eat. Never the games you play with fasting, even though I like fasting. I think it's a cool tool. I think for the right person, it can improve your quality of life. It can spice things up, make you think about your day differently. Perhaps, you know, you don't like breakfast. You know, I used to be someone when I used to work an office job, I would wake up an hour early so I can eat like steel cut oatmeal and eggs before I went to work. I was like exhausted every day just so I could eat steel cut oatmeal and eggs. And I'm like, damn, what am I doing in my life? I'm like, this is crazy. What am I even doing? So it's like, and you know what? If I did that, I guarantee you there's tons of other people who are bending over backwards to do something because they think they need to, when they probably don't.
Yeah.
Like, if you love breakfast, you should eat breakfast. You know what I mean? And there's another type of, there's a vein of intermittent fasting. It's called early time restricted feeding, ETRF they call it, where you stop eating like 4 or 5. And that's supposed to be very good for insulin resistance. So it's like a whole world. This book, the intermittent fasting book, has more knowledge and science than any of my other ones. So if you want to legit read and like the recipes are not as important, just read that. And I put a lot of work into the research on that. I think you'll like it.
Awesome. And I can tell you right now, this is the first one I'm going to read. 100%. Yeah. I really enjoy it. Also, yeah, like I'd prefer at that point, I'd rather sleep in a little bit and not have to get up and eat breakfast. Like I actually bought a whole bag of oatmeal not long ago. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to get healthy again, like do all this stuff. And like, I hate waking up early making breakfast. I'd just grab a coffee, get out, start my day, drink lots of water and fluids in the morning.
That's the one thing I love about intermittent fasting is that I don't have to wake up early to eat.
Right.
Because usually like breakfast for me is either a smoothie and piece of bread or a bagel or something.
Yeah.
That's why at least with intermittent fasting, I don't feel bad about not like skipping breakfast. I'll just like chug a gallon of water before lunch.
Yeah, and for you, the framework works. It resonates with you. It adds to your life.
Yeah,
cool. You know what I mean. But what I don't like to see is someone who's you know like bending over backwards just to like fit some like preconceived notion they have to do it this way all the time, or it's like that's not the point of it. The point of it is to use it when it makes sense to your benefit, and if it doesn't benefit you, you can rest easy knowing that's never going to be the most important thing you do for your health.
I
like it, right? I'm saying that as someone who enjoys it.
So
the more you like something, like the more harsh you have to be on it. That's my view when it comes to like nutrition. You know,
that's a fair point. And there's days too, like I try to do it 5-6 days a week, and Sunday's like kind of a cheat day. But there's days I'll wake up, like I know there's times I'll work out. I like to do like fasted cardio. I'll work out. I'm like I feel hungry or like kind of nauseous. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna suffer all day. Like, what's one day? Like I'll eat. So like I'm pretty lenient with it. If I
that's the right way to do it.
Yeah,
that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day too, I think just even being in the habit, like when I started doing intermittent fasting, it all just puts me in the habit of like, you know, if I'm going to eat breakfast, not like I'm going to eat pancakes and like French toast. That's it. Like you still think about what you're eating. Okay, I'm going to eat a little earlier. Maybe I'll eat a little healthier. Maybe I'll reduce a little bit of this. So, you know, it's just, I guess it's being a little flexible, but that's for me, it's been my favorite, I guess, diet you would call it, or program. I don't know if is intermittent fasting classified as a diet? Because you're not really like dieting. You still.
I wouldn't call it diet. It's like a style of arranging your day. Like, you know what I mean? That's the way
I like a style of arranging your day.
I'm very diplomatic, like when it comes to food, because you know so many people see so much harsh stuff out there.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, it affects their life badly. So like I try and keep it neutral. And yeah, like I said, I mean, it's a cool thing if you like it, but don't ever think that you have to do fasting to be healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the icing on the cake. It's the icing on the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It's like you got the Dairy Queen cake, and you know, you want the lettering in with your name on it. That's fasting. You know what I mean? The cake has the icing already.
Now, don't talk about cake too much. I'm gonna go get Dairy Queen after this. Now, what's the longest you've ever fasted?
Honestly, for me, like some people who are like, you know, the quote unquote biohackers, they're going to go 1 or 2 days. They're really into it. For me, I love eating. I'll never go a day without eating. So the longest I've ever done, probably 22 hours. I don't do that anymore because I caught myself getting too much, like sucked in. You know what I mean? And that's the downside. Like, you know, you need to eat. You got to get your nutrients in. You got to fuel yourself, especially. And the more active you are, the more you got to fuel yourself. So you got to be careful not to get too sucked in.
You get too gamified, they get too caught up. Like, let me go an extra hour, and it gets a little bit crazy, eh?
Yeah, I got into doing 1 meal a day for a bit, but I don't do that anymore.
Is it hard?
You know what I mean? I mean, no, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
It's you know, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. Like I did it for a bit last summer. I played around with it. It got into this thing where I think it was more than it probably should have been, and I stopped doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that should be a cautionary tale. You know, even for someone like myself who's so engaged in this world, it's like, you know, there's downsides to stuff, and fasting has some cool strengths, some cool science, but it's not all fun and games. Like you gotta be careful. It's not for everyone. You know what I mean?
Okay, very cool. You know, man, I think it's really cool that you've kind of done this, touched on different things, and it seems like all of these have, you know, they all have a different, obviously, theme. That's easy to say, but they kind of still tap into something where it's like focusing on reducing health. It's not just, okay, here's a cookbook with cool recipes, and here's a cookbook with this. They all kind of try to improve quality of life for someone with either some kind of lifestyle or some kind of problem they're trying to get over, which is really cool. I think this is awesome. I guess one of my next questions, I know we're kind of nearing the end here, but like, is there one you have on the horizon? Is there something that you're planning on writing next? Something in the works right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 in the works.
Nice.
So 2, they're in a similar vein to these ones. They're gonna just deal with common issues. So I got 2 more coming. I mean, I would love to, you know, I would love to write a book on nutrition and mental health, like maybe like do my own thing with that, or see if someone will pick that up, because a friend of mine, I'm going to shout him out because I show him every opportunity, you know, but unfortunately he passed away. So it's kind of grim.
Sorry.
He passed away. He studied mental health, and in like the nutritional world. He passed away a few years ago, and his name was Josh. Awesome dude. And he's a big inspiration for me. And I would love to write a book kind of dedicated to him on mental health, nutrition. So that maybe down the line I'll write that. So we'll see.
That'd be sick.
Nice. That'd be nice.
I had one more actually before we start to wrap up. What about water? We didn't touch upon water. I'm a big believer that water is like the key to
Life.
Honestly.
Basically.
We are basically water. So what are your thoughts on water? Drop some knowledge.
Yeah.
One last time.
A lot of people don't like drinking water. That's the first thing.
I think it's
you know
insane.
What I mean?
I have to. It's what for me. It's become one of my biggest pet peeves to have like a dry mouth or like feel dehydrated.
Right.
I have to. I carry this or a big Nalgene with me everywhere I go.
Right.
I can't not have
Yeah.
water.
I think I need to drink more, because even myself, I get caught up. Like I'll have a cold brew in the morning, and then like it's like, oh, you know what? I'm not gonna drink again till my next coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful. I mean, basically, like how it works is, you know, how much water you need. It depends on like how big you are. You know, the bigger you are, the more water you need. It's like milliliters per kilogram. You know what I mean? There's a number for that. And then how much do you work out? You sweat. Well, guess what? You lost water. You're gonna need to drink more. You know, enough water is important. You know, good for your skin. It's good for your digestive tract.
Yeah.
Helps you clear toxins. Helps you go to the washroom. Both. You know what I mean?
Everything.
Yeah.
During quarantine, I'll tell us a little story quickly. Me and my mom and my dad were having competitions to see who can drink the most amount of water,
Right.
like throughout the day.
It's a weird
It
competition.
was just like, we knew
It
it was
is a
good
weird
for us.
competition.
We know it's good for us, and we weren't drinking a lot of it. And when you're stuck at home, it's not like it's hard to drink water, but you just don't think about it.
Right.
We were working out, watching movies and whatever. So every day we'd get a piece of paper, just write down every time you finish your bottle of water.
Right.
And we were trying to drink like probably 7 or 8. No, I was doing like 10, 12.
Right.
Water bottles. So you think about that, it's 10 to 12. That's 5 to 6 liters of water a day.
We're talking about 500 milliliter bottle.
Yeah, 500 milliliters. Bottles. Yeah, so I was feeling great. My pee was clear, if that's weird to say. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, that's
right?
a lot of water. There's like there's could be downsides, so you could drink too much, because it can dilute you too much. You know, and
But I googled it. I think they said it was like for a man my size with like my levels of activity, I can do up to like 10 liters. Or something.
that's a smart thing to do.
It's just
before you do something
that's
like
tough. Like 10 liters of water in a day is
I probably
very
drink
tough.
around that. I wake up a couple times tonight.
10 liters?
Probably. One of these is, I think, a liter, and I fill this up. Sorry, one of those is about a liter, and my Nalgene was about 2 liters, and I'd fill the Nalgene up. The Nalgene I'd fill up like 4-ish times a day. I drink a lot of water. I wake up in the middle of the night at least once every single night.
Right.
Wow.
That's probably not a great thing. You probably don't.
No, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Lately, I drink more than I do because of just running, working. I do drink more now. And yeah, it's annoying. Lately, yeah.
Do you have one of those water belts when you run? Like
Water
the belt
belts?
where you hold the little tiny water belts?
When I go long runs, yeah. If I'm over 20 kilometers, I have to bring water with me.
Like you wear the little
It's
belt.
a
with
Nike
little,
one, yeah. I have it in my closet, 2 Nike bottles in the back, or I have a handheld one.
Oh, you have a handle one?
Yeah.
too?
Yeah, I have to. Man, when you're running
Yeah,
that much, if you
20K,
run if you're running a half marathon race, there's water stations.
Yeah.
So you can replenish. If you run like 21K, you're not drinking water, you burn I run pretty slow, and I burn like 2,000 calories on a run that long.
that's
so
crazy.
Like athletes will like weigh themselves before and after training, and if they lost too much weight, that means they didn't hydrate properly. Because I think it's about, if you lose more than 2.5% of your body weight, don't quote me on that, something like that, you actually start to decrease your performance.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Because you're losing water, you're not losing other stuff when you're training, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
All right.
yeah,
there you go.
I drink a lot of water.
Good.
Facts.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah.
You know what, Georgie? You go.
What, you want to start?
Yeah.
Well, this is the point. As Ricky like to say, we start to wrap up. So we'd like to thank. No, I'm kidding. I'm just being facetious here, but Andy, this has been honestly a real pleasure. we haven't had someone come on to talk about food and the health and like healthy lifestyles and all that stuff. I mean, we've had people in the fitness space, but
Right.
It's really cool to see the diet side because there's always that adage people say like abs aren't made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen.
Yo.
I guess, right? So thank you for dropping knowledge on all of us. And
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
yeah, this is a lot of fun. We'll look forward to seeing the other 2 books. We'll definitely dig into these. And when we wrap up, you might know this. We have 2 questions we ask at the end.
Nope.
Wait, you do know him or don't?
No,
He's never made it to the end.
No.
Another guest has
But I'll tell you right now, like I don't make it to the end of any podcast because I'm the type of person. If there's 2 minutes left, 3
like
minutes
next.
left,
Yeah,
4 minutes left, I go to the next one.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Fair
We're not
enough,
judging.
but
We
yeah,
our own
but-
friends don't know.
Actually, we had one recently that made it to the end because she messaged us to get a sweater. or shirt
yeah.
or something.
We have to get us.
Yeah. We got to mail that out.
Okay, so right,
So
get 'em.
our first question that we asked is, if there was a movie about your life, who would you want to star as you?
I'm gonna pick Jim Caviezel, the guy who's the Count of Monte Cristo, because that's my favorite movie.
great
that's a sick.
movie.
Yeah.
It's my favorite movie. I don't think he looks a damn thing like me.
No, it doesn't need to.
But
It's your movie,
that's
it's
my
your
favorite
life.
movie. I'm gonna pick him. Yeah.
That is a
That's a
wow.
sick
I used to.
one.
It's one of the only books I've read because I'm a writer. I don't read a lot. That's one of the only books. Like, I'm exaggerating a bit. It's one of the only books I've read more than once. To put it that way.
Do you find is the movie do a good portrayal of the book, or is the book better?
I mean, the book is like 2,000 plus words, right? It's like an epic story of like revenge and redemption. So like, the movie.
Wait, 2,000 words for a book's a lot?
It's 2,000 pages.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna be like 2,000
Yeah.
words is like an essay. Like,
2,000 pages.
I'll tell you what. This is a very important subject to me because this is my favorite movie and I take it very seriously. what they downplay in the movie, of course, just from practicality purposes, is like the time he spends in the jail with the old man, like the self-learning he gets there is much more. It's way too quick in the movie. It's like he's in and out. Like you
Like
can't
10 minutes or
appreciate the
something,
suffering,
yeah.
right? So.
And they do it's a lot longer within the book of capturing what he goes through.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on there.
Yeah.
It has to be, right? Because that's the whole thing. He comes out a totally different dude. So obviously that's not going to happen overnight. You have to truly like go through it, right?
I want to
So-
watch that now.
oh, you know,
I think I might watch. I might watch
yeah.
tonight. I used to love that movie, and I
Is it
haven't
on
seen it in a long time.
Netflix?
I think it might be.
Done.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't matter,
throwing that on
doesn't matter
tonight.
where it's at. You got to
Sick
get it.
movie.
Amazon Prime, whatever
When
you
they're
gotta do.
throwing him off the cliff, and I'm like, man, he's in the bag. How's he gonna get out? And he snags the key right up.
So crazy.
That's my favorite film, my favorite book.
That's a really good one. Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah, that's
We've
very
never had
unique.
that.
I don't know if that's a unique one. Last question: if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Honestly, I would just start sooner. Like don't wait to like, do what you got to do. I don't know. Like I don't know if I think about my regrets in life. I mean, what I'm doing now, I love what I do. You know what I mean? I know you guys were on the last pod. You guys were talking about that, right? Like how you end up in different careers, this and that. But for me, the only thing I would do differently is I would have everything I'm doing. I would have started earlier. I would have pursued it earlier. Easy to say now, but yeah, that's what I would say.
I like it. I like it. Well, we appreciate you coming on and dropping the knowledge on us. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Yeah, I would say go to Instagram, my website, Andy the RD. So ANDYTHERD.com. That's my Instagram. I do a lot of like fun jokes on there, kind of like fun jokes, but combined with real knowledge. So make it light, but also like show you that here's the science, here's the info. So yeah, Instagram and my website. That's where you find me.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll share everything
Awesome.
in the bio. And again, like Georgie said, looking forward to seeing those new books, and we're definitely gonna crack into these ones.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate
All right.
it, boys.
All
Thanks
right.
for having
Appreciate
us.
it. If you made it to the end, again, hit the subscribe button, give us a like, review, comment, all that fun stuff. And until next episode, peace.
Peace.